story first. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Joseph Vijay is in Karur today to revisit the site of last year's deadly stampede that claimed the lives of 41 individuals at a poll rally organized by the now Chief Minister. Describing it as the most painful episode of his political life, the Chief Minister handed over compassionate government appointment orders to 32 affected families and announced that a memorial would be built for the 41 victims of the tragedy. The visit, however, also doubled up as a political offensive. Vijay blamed the police for the stampede, alleging that authorities had failed to manage the crowd despite prior knowledge of the expected turnout. Before going on to pin the blame, he said to the TVK. The Chief Minister also laid the foundation stone for a 1,700 crore rupee footwear manufacturing unit in the town, combining an emotional visit with an industrial investment pitch. And speaking of Vijay, after months of speculation and delays, the actor-turned-Chief Minister's final film, Jananayagan, is set to hit theatres on the 24th of July. Now, while the makers are yet to make a formal announcement, distributors have begun preparing for the worldwide release, signalling that the long-awaited political action drama is finally headed to the big screen. Reports have said that the Central Board for Film Certification has effected as many as 12 cuts to the final cut of the film, in addition to removing visuals of the Indian tricolour as well as religious references. The film will also release with an adults-only certificate. Now, for those of you watching and who did not know, the 11th of July, that's tomorrow, is World Population Day. Now, while much of the global conversation today is centered on population growth, South India is facing a different reality. The conversation here is no more about growth, but aging. Now, as things stand, every southern state has fallen below the replacement fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman. Tamil Nadu's fertility rate has dropped to just 1.3, while Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra and Telangana are all at around 1.5. Combined with rising life expectancy, this is creating one of the fastest demographic transitions anywhere in the country. The result is a rapidly aging population that will reshape healthcare, housing, employment, and even just the way families care for their elderly. It's also creating new opportunities and new challenges, from the growing demand for geriatric healthcare and assisted living to the rise of senior living communities as a specialized real estate segment. South India is entering what many are calling the era of the silver economy. So are our cities and healthcare systems prepared? Will traditional family support structures be enough in an age of smaller families and migration? And more importantly, what does this demographic shift mean for businesses looking at the next decade of growth? Joining us now to discuss this are Adarsh Narahari, founder and managing director of Primus Senior Living, and Dr. Vasant Karthikeyan, Group Medical Director at Gericare. Gentlemen, welcome to South Central. My first question to you, Dr. Karthikeyan, the fact is that South India is aging much faster than the rest of the country. In fact, Tamil Nadu leads that abysmal fertility rate of 1.3 children per woman, among all the southern states that have fallen well below the replacement rate. So purely from a medical and public health perspective, what does this demographic shift actually mean for South Indian populations over the next 10 to 20 years? Dr. Karthikeyan.
Yeah. So traditionally, we have been geared up to fight only, infectious diseases, women and childhood diseases. But this, slow wave of silver economy, silver ages, I think nobody prepared us. We are not worried about the 60 plus. The greatest worry is the 80 plus and 90 plus, the increase in longevity and the burden which it is going to put on the healthcare force. Because so far the hospitals built or the healthcare system built is only for episodic treatment, not for any longitudinal care. Now, giving this longitudinal continuous care is going to be a real challenge. So I think I would say Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka are better prepared because of the advent of senior living way before 20 years. But still the rest of India has a greater thing to catch up.
Right. So let's bring Adarsh in on this discussion. Adarsh, the fact is that even you at Primus, for instance, have been expanding rapidly in South India with projects in Bengaluru and Chennai, and with plans for Hyderabad as well. Now, as South India's population ages and families become smaller, how do you think the addressable market for senior living real estate can actually grow over the next decade? Give us a number in terms of what that growth prospect is likely looking like.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here. And if I have to put a number on how big I think the senior living market can be over the next decade, I would conservatively put it at about 1 lakh crores. And the logic for that is pretty simple. So people who choose senior living, the is a direct function of how educated they are. So the highest cohort of educated elders happen to be in South India. Therefore, states like Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are leading this race in senior living, right? So JLL and PwC had released a report recently that pegged the formal demand for senior living at 4 lakh units, and the current supply is about 20,000 homes. So there's a large catch up here, and it's a market waiting to explode.
Right. So, even as the fact, and I probably will get you back on this, Dr. Vasudevan, as the fact that our healthcare systems are actually not prepared for this, like you mentioned, right? It's been prepared for infectious diseases, for a possible pandemic even, given the expertise of the last 6 years and the COVID-19 era. The fact is that our healthcare systems are still in uncharted territory is a little unnerving. What do you think are the biggest gaps that you see today, especially in areas like geriatric medicine or dementia care for that matter, rehab, or even chronic disease management that both governments and the private sector need to address urgently?
I think there are simply very few geriatricians in the country. Right now, I would say there are around 250 practicing geriatricians, and right now the output is much better. 80 plus geriatricians are passing out every year. But you cannot expect a geriatrician for everywhere for a population of 15 crore of 60 plus senior citizens. So it is going to be that how do we prepare the healthcare force to use the geriatric lens? How a geriatrician sees, I think the general physician has to see, a surgeon has to see, and even an oncologist has to see. That is going to be the greatest challenge. Now, second is the dementia. The dementia is often underdiagnosed in our society, and people present to us in the advanced stages when they need care for their daily needs, like feeding or even dressing, bathing. So when it is left to that level, the quality of life, the amount of pressure it puts on the families for caregiving is enormous when it comes to dementia. Third, again, rehabilitation is often underestimated or unknown category. After a stroke or a fracture or a prolonged ICU stay for an 80-year-old, going back to home straight away is not an option. They will not be as independent as before. They will not be even as independent when they got admitted. So it is going to be, they are going to be dependent on so much of caregiving, physiotherapists, social workers for them to recoup and rehab. So that again is often overlooked. Fourth, when it comes to chronic care management, it is very much fragmented. Imagine a patient with a diabetes, kidney problem, with the hypertension, with some arthritis. He will be seeing 4 different specialists for 4 different problems. Now, the amount of onslaught on those people by giving different medications and problems induced by those medications are very, very high. Older adults need integrated care. That is the need of the hour. You cannot have geriatricians everywhere, but having a geriatric trained workforce is essential.
Right, and just the fact that all of these gaps exist perhaps calls for a formalized approach to senior living communities and services more now than ever before. So let me go back to Adarsh then. The fact is, Adarsh, you at Primus have actually announced ambitious expansion plans in a pipeline, including partnerships to build senior living communities across the region. So which South Indian cities in your expertise and in your portfolio are emerging as your biggest growth markets for the future?
So for us at Primus, our biggest market is Bangalore, followed by Chennai. But I am also betting largely on Bombay and Calcutta because Bombay has, a lot of immigrants who moved in from South India into Bombay much earlier, as well as it has a very mobile population. So families are not able to live together. So there's a massive demand in Mumbai. And as far as Calcutta is concerned, it has the largest exodus of the next generation. So there you have a city that is filled with elders who are highly educated. So we're betting on Calcutta as well. So from a South India perspective, I see Bangalore, Chennai, and then Hyderabad as the main regions of growth. From a Middle India perspective, I'm looking at Bombay, Pune, and Calcutta to help us grow as well. So, funnily enough, the cities and the states that got population control right are the ones now who are having better demand for aged care facilities. And I want to supplement what Dr. Vasant said. See, what a senior living community essentially does is it creates an ecosystem like a mini blue zone where we can increase health span. So we play a large role in keeping people out of hospitals. So people like Vasant, people like us, we actually bring down the burden of elder care on the government. So it's something that the government needs to look at as a
Right,
solution
right.
that helps them keep people out of the hospital.
Absolutely. But you know what? All of that aside, Adarsh, and I completely get what you're saying in the fact that, senior living communities can do a whole lot in keeping people out of hospital by better care and better facilities. But Dr. Vasant, coming back to you, I'll tell you where the conundrum actually lies in the way I see things. Traditionally, as far as Indian families are concerned, elderly have generally relied on large families and their children for care. But with smaller families now and lower fertility and increasing migration, that support system is already changing. So if we talk about a future concerning senior living communities and integrated systems to support this, are we actually looking at a future where many of these seniors simply won't have enough family caregivers with them? And is that bound to be a problem even as that market for senior living actually keeps growing?
This is perhaps the biggest social challenge. We at Jericare, who we employ 1,000 odd nurses, but still we are relied heavily upon family caregivers to take care of the patients, because home care is one the patient first opt for instead of facility-based care. Earlier, elderly couple used to have 3 or 4 children. Right now, with only one children or even no children, that scenario is completely changing. That doesn't mean, if children living abroad care less. They want to give everything. They want to they want to remote manage everything. But unfortunately, they cannot remote control the day-to-day life. So that is where the biggest gap is there. And I think people like Adarsh building Primus can really help setting up that ecosystem where people can thrive in, really age well as when they need the care, they can opt for, tertiary care hospitals or a geriatric care facility to age forward. So that is something which is going to happen, because society has to even recognize caregiving as an essential service. That is often missing. We find family caregivers often burnt out, trodden in guilt. One of the sibling will be living in abroad, and the sibling who is the primary caregiver who will be taking care of many senior citizens in the family. So this is a pretty much common scenario we come across, and it is time to recognize them. That is very, very important, and acknowledge that they are going through a lot as well.
Right. Well, Adarsh, I'll let you have the last word then. For years, the fact is senior living was seen as a niche segment, at least in the last 16 years that I've covered the real estate market in India. Do you believe it's now becoming a mainstream residential asset class, much like, let's say, co-living or student living? And in South India, what is that growth prospect and that growth number do you see as far as this specific residential segment is concerned over the next 5 to 10 years?
No, absolutely. Like every business goes through an evolution. And ultimately, what wins is where people get, great convenience and get a better lifestyle. So this notion that it's an old age home it's safe to say it's completely gone in South India. It probably exists a little bit in parts of India now, but it is bound to change, right? If globally between 6 and 12% of everybody above the age of 60 is living in a formal retirement community, that is eventually going to catch up here in India. The other thing that I am betting big on is the multi-generational communities where senior living is integrated into larger regular housing projects. So I see this, to become a large trend. And like I mentioned, I'm expecting senior housing to be anywhere between 5 to 10% of housing inventory going forward. So that's a big number.
Right. Absolutely then. Well, the South and India overall needs to be more prepared and more equipped to care for its elderly population, even as those fertility rates, at least in South India, have plummeted well below the replacement rate. And well, senior living facilities could well be the answer. On that note, Dr. Vasudevan and others, great speaking with you. Thank you so very much. And thanks for joining us for those insights on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, moving on to news from the Wayanad landslide next. The Kerala High Court has directed the state government to expedite compensation for victims of the devastating Wayanad landslide. This even as the court has also expressed concern over the delay in disbursing the compensation required. Now, the Kerala High Court has also directed the government to ensure that the mortal remains of the deceased are handed over to their families promptly. The court's intervention comes even as the Kerala government has spent the last few days blaming the contractor of the tunnel project in Wayanad, in this case Dilip Buildcon, for negligence, which the government claims caused the tragedy. Moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has concluded his Australia visit after holding bilateral talks with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in Melbourne. The two sides agreed to deepen their cooperation in defence, critical minerals, clean energy and trade, while also accelerating negotiations for a comprehensive economic cooperation agreement. Now, part of the Prime Minister's delegation to visit the Australian continent was UAE-based Lulu Group. The overseas conglomerate with roots in Kerala has long harboured ambitions of expanding market presence in Australia, and the decision to send a delegation over with the Prime Minister could well further that pursuit. Joining us now to discuss the trip is Mohammed Altaf, Director of Global Operations at the Lulu Group. Mr. Altaf, thank you so much for joining us here on ET Now. Now, let's set some context for our viewers first. What does this trip to Australia actually mean for investment opportunities for the Lulu Group?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invite. Like you said, this visit is historic. I know this sounds very cliched, but I don't know any other way of describing it. This is the third visit by our Prime Minister. And with every visit, companies like us actually see that our relationship is getting much broader, much deeper. And Lulu's participation in this visit is in the context of Prime Minister Albanese visiting Lulu and meeting with our chairman, Mr. Yusuf Ali in Abu Dhabi, and he had extended an invitation for companies like us from India to Australia to explore more opportunities. Here, what we are looking at is mostly now in terms of food processing, sourcing, and distribution. And as the Prime Minister requested us, we are also exploring more opportunities here for retail. As you know, that our Indian diaspora is expanding in Australia, and Lulu is one of their favorite shopping destination. We want to provide the same services here. But beyond our retail and beyond the Lulu business, we also see a lot of complementarity. I had the opportunity to attend some of the business meetings that the Prime Minister held with the captains of industry. Their Prime Minister made it very clear and categoric that he wants to expand this relationship into more areas of food security, energy security, cooperation between sectors, cooperation between states, and decouple the decision-making from two capitals. So I believe Lulu has a lot more to complement and to contribute into this relationship, as both the countries are important for us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Altaf, for breaking down those key takeaways. But like you mentioned, the visit also comes on the back of Prime Minister Albanese's invitation to set up in Australia and take on some of the more established players in the market, including the likes of a Coles. What's the decision now? Is there an investment that you've earmarked for the Australian market?
Well, we have made some modest beginning in our investment journey in Australia. Right now, we have a sourcing and distribution center in Melbourne. We will be expanding more into food processing and exporting at this moment. About the retail, I don't want to comment on our competition, but they're all very formidable players, very well organized retail players in Australian market. But we definitely think that, we have a opportunity in Australia, considering the multicultural, multinational population in Australia. We think we can play a very significant role in retail here. We are exploring. We are in discussions with many state governments. They are all very proactive. The state of Victoria has already identified certain retail locations which they think will be suitable for Lulu operations here. We are considering that, and this is true of other states as well.
Right. So what do you think are some of the tweaks to business that you'll make while entering the Australian market in comparison to what you've already been doing in more established centers like the UAE or even back here in India for that matter?
Well, in Australia, we don't think we will change anything, but we'll add the flavor. As I've mentioned, we have significant Indian diaspora present in Australia. We will bring in more of flavor. We will have more targeted retailing. We also have a global sourcing network spreading from, right from Houston in Australia. We are in Birmingham in the UK. We are Milano, Madrid, and Asian countries. So that gives us a lot of agility to bring in goods to all the specific ethnic communities who are, in Melbourne City. So I think that is the element that we'll bring into Australia. And we hope our model is accepted by various nationalities around the globe. And Australia will be happy to welcome us, I believe.
Right. And what are growth prospects for Lulu likely to be like in the Australian market itself? Are there newer avenues or verticals that you also want to tap into?
Well, I think, Australia is basically a duopoly, as you are aware. They have two major players in this market, and we believe that this market requires third, fourth, and fifth player. And the population is expanding, immigration is expanding. And if you look at the cities like Melbourne now, they are already reaching about 3 to 4 million population, and mostly first-generation immigrants, and they all need to be catered to. So we believe that is one aspect. And the other observation that I have about this market is that this is also highly sophisticated and very digital savvy population. So e-commerce has a fantastic prospects in Australia. And then it also requires a lot of fresh investment in technology, in various other store formats. Lulu hope to bring all that into Australia. We see tremendous growth opportunity here.
Well, Mr. Mohammed Altaf, new beginnings there for Lulu in Australia. On that note, thank you so much for joining us and breaking down some of those plans that the Lulu Group has in the Australian continent. Here's a video of Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy that's gone viral and won hearts online. The Chief Minister shared a video where he's seen making puris for his 3-year-old grandson. In the video, the boy can be heard insisting that he'd have his breakfast only if his grandfather actually cooked it for him. The light-hearted video offers a rare glimpse into the Chief Minister's family life and the apparent bond that he shares with his grandson. And with that, we've reached the end of our bulletin today. Thanks so much for watching South Central. We'll be back soon with more news and updates from the region. For the moment, it's goodbye from us.